Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Dured part number OPL. OPL, that's going to stand for one-point latch. Okay, a one-point latch is a very typical and common piece of handle equipment that you're going to have on typical roof hatches. Two-point latches is when you're going to have a long chassis and it's going to be latched out on the sides. You'll see those in exceptionally long, or I should say wide, roof hatches. So the OPL from Dured is going to be consistent of this assembly that will be on the underside of the roof hatch. When you are walking up to the roof hatch, this will be what you're presented with. And this video will serve as visual and dimensional evidence of the OPL. There'll be a handful of parts involved with this item, and you're going to get the lock bracket with the lock body welded to it. Okay. Basic dimensional properties. Overall width of the mounting bracket, about 5 1/4 or so, just shy on that. Overall width, about 2 inch. Holding it upside down to gauge a body projection of about 2 1/4, and down to the handle maybe about 3 1/4. The width, I should say the center to center of the mounting screw holes, appears to be about 4 7/16. Okay. Center to center in the other direction, about 1 1/4 inches. This is going to include 4 self-drilling hex head screws, 4 of these, for the 4 holes needed in the base. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll put all that aside. Then we're going to move to the other piece that you're going to be presented with when you walk up to the opening. This is going to be the padlock hasp. And there is a link below this video to the tech sheet. I'm sorry, I was stammering to figure out what in the world I was calling that document. It's a tech sheet. It doesn't refer to the padlock hasp on the interior side. It's going to be the padlock staple, is what I would call it. This will be mounted to the sidewall, and when your lid comes down and closes, the lid will have, a padlock hasp at the top of it, which will mate to this. This is going to be held on with 2 more of those tech screws that are included. Put those tech screws aside. Let's take some dimensional properties. The width of the bracket, about 3 1/8. Overall height, about 1 11/16 inches. Overall projection, you can gauge that here on the camera, at about 1 7/8 inches. Okay. Width of the portion where the padlock will go through, about 1 1/2 inches. Then, diameter of the padlock hole, 0.405. 0.405 on the ID. Then, bringing us to the last piece that's included, your exterior handle that has this key stock on it. I put my caliper away too soon. The exterior handle, you can obviously rotate it to open. Turns the key stock. The key stock is going to turn the latch assembly. Okay. Okay. You'll be able to rotate that. You'll be able to get it locked into place. That is held on with what's called a Tillman washer. Tillman washer. A push-on fastener. You're going to force that down and it will keep that retained where it needs to go. Okay. Tillman fastener. Some dimensional properties. The length of the spindle measured from the underside of the lid, measured to where this is going to mount to the lid itself, 4 inch. Dimensional properties, it's probably 5/16 key stock. 0.31 by 0.311. So yeah, 5/16 key stop. The last two fasteners will be these two Padlock Hasp retaining screws, is what they call them. These, I'm drawing a blank on what I'd call that head. It's not a truss head because it's like a truss but a flat head sort of model. That's going to permit you to get this installed down. And those heads are so flat when you install both of them, there are two, that it will just ride right over the head of those screws. That's what that's intended for. Okay. That concludes everything here. Now, Dur-Red is a manufacturer that's been in the roof, and I don't know their history very well, but what I do know very well is that the gentleman there is incredibly responsive, incredibly happy to help, dedicated to making sure that you get the proper products to make sure that you have a proper, healthy, and safe roof hatch installation. The client who's ordered this material needed help with a Dur-Red product. We're able to get from the manufacturer the right parts needed for that client to be able to safely continue to operate their roof hatch. Now, the issue with the roof hatch industry is there are a number of manufacturers, and they all have different hardware. There's similarities between all of them. The format by which they all lock their units or control their units or hold them open, you know, lifting mechanisms, scuttles, compression operators, whatever they call them, they're all the same kind of principle. There's some sort of spring or in some cases gas that control that lid so it's just not 150 pounds crashing on your head. The hold open brackets are kind of all the same design, but they're all different. The dimensional properties, the material they're made of, the everything that they're rated for, engineered for, it's all different. So we get calls every day. I need a roof hatch part. Who's the manufacturer of the roof hatch? No idea. Okay, not a problem. We're going to need to start with some information, and usually photographs is where that starts. We then, by eye, can then determine what product it is, and then go down that path of saying, this is the product necessary for this unit. And the gentleman at Dur-Red is, he's a superstar among amazing people when it comes to properly identifying his product. So he's very, he's indispensable in that regard. The manufacturer will get a call and say, I need help with roof hatch parts. Whose roof hatch do you have? Well, I don't know. Well, call me back if you know it's mine. I'm not saying that's Dur-Red, I doubt that it is, but that is in general what happens. So I like to feel that we provide a value to the client because we will help them determine whose brand it is of the half a dozen or so that we make an attempt to support. We get calls that, well, I don't know who it is and I can't send any photographs. Okay. Then the next thing that we discuss is, I have no idea what you need. What's the lid made of? I don't know. It's wood. Well, it can't be wood. So, have you made your own? Yes, in fact, I've manufactured my own roof hatch, and I need some parts to help lift it. So, while we're not unwilling to help, the problem with telling you what you need is that we don't know. We're not engineering these parts. We don't know the dimensional requirements of where and how to install them. We don't know the compression rates for springs based on the load of the lid. We don't know any of the geometries. So in those instances where you are really doing something where you've left the reservation, so to speak, it's hard for us to be able to help. We will have people that will have a unit that there are no replaceable parts, and we will always, preface the conversation with, the proper thing to do. In every manufacturer I speak to, they say the right thing to do is to replace it outright with a new roof hatch. And that is the right thing because the manufacturer isn't concerned about cost. They're concerned about safety. Okay? The cost is not their, you have a roof, you need a roof hatch, you have to operate that safely. The cost is the cost. You may be concerned with safety, but you have to incorporate into that cost. It may not be feasible to rip out a roof hatch because you may not have one to put back in. You can't order one to put back in because there's no money in the budget. Well, our videos and our knowledge and experience is intended to help tell you about this material. Then you can decide how to proceed with the understanding that putting a starter from a Chevy onto a Ford, they do the same job, but they're not going to bolt up to each other. A lifting mechanism from a Dured and a Babcock Davis, they do the same job, but they're not going to bolt up to each other, and they're not going to operate correctly. I've had people call me and say, hey, I bought this from you, and it doesn't work, right? Yes, okay, we discussed at length that I could give you no guarantee because we had no idea whose roof hatch it was. And the client would then explain the circumstance, and while I don't have all the facts, we can kind of sometimes help the client determine what needs to be modified. Perhaps a mounting point needs to be modified to get something to work better. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all the Dured products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the OPL, 1-point latch from Dured or any other Dured product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.